And when John wrote Revelation in the late 15th or early 16th century, describing a war in heaven between a dragon and a warrior hero, these were not his own symbolic devices. By the time the book of Revelation, the story of the princess, the dragon, and the Dragonslayer had been around for thousands of years. Cultures around the world had their own version of the heavenly dragon combat. St. George is, perhaps, the most famous, but there are scores of dragon slayers around the world. But the dragon slayers were not human beings. Beside the outward persona was a planetary identity, Mars.
In the myth of St. George, the dragon of darkness attacks the village and carries off the beautiful princess. Then along comes the hero, St. George, who vanquishes the dragon and frees the princess. In the St. George story, there is the dragon and there is the princess. Then there is St. George himself. If the princess originally meant the planet Venus, who then was St. George? From North America to Mesoamerica, to South America, from ancient Mesopotamia to ancient Egypt, we see the warrior hero arising to defeat powers of chaos. The Greek Apollo, Hercules, Perseus, Theseus, or coyote or raven of Native American lore. Most of us have assumed these figures have nothing to do with astronomical bodies. Hercules was born to fight chaos monsters, vanquishing the gigantic Nemean lion, slaying the Hydra. Though remembered as the child of Zeus, he is usually seen as a man walking the earth. But earlier versions of Hercules, the Egyptian heroes Shu-Anur or Horus, do not inhabit the earth. When they challenge the dragon of chaos, they wage that battle in the heavens. The original Hercules was a celestial power. In fact, Greek and Roman astronomy identified the warrior hero as a planet. The planet Mars. The North American Pawnee remember an ancestral warrior who defeated the powers of darkness in remote times. To find the warrior in the sky, they pointed to a planet, Mars. The Aborigines of Australia did the same. So too the Chinese, the Babylonians, and the peoples of the South Pacific. Wherever we find the doomsday theme, we find the chaos monster, the angry or lamenting goddess Venus, but also the warrior hero, the planet Mars.
The Apostle John, as would be expected, uses a Hebrew version of the dragon myth to describe the war in heaven of Revelation. Saint Michael, the archangel, is a Hebrew counterpart to the English Saint George. By using standard mythological iconography, John makes interpretation of the Dragonslayer simple. Michael was one of the 7 archangels. The archangels were always associated with the planets. The problem is not identifying Saint Michael as a planet. He was. The difficulty arises from confusion as to which archangel was which planet. But this is easily resolved given what we know Mars' role has been in the Exodus and elsewhere. We know from the scriptures that at the Sea of Passage, there was a war in heaven with an archangel vanquishing a dragon. The dragon was called either Rahab or Leviathan. Emanuel Velikovsky, relying on ancient Hebrew sources, believed that the primary archangel involved in the events of the Exodus, including the dragon combat, was Michael. Velikovsky identifies the archangel Michael as the planet Venus, according to his thesis. But this is incorrect. It was Mars which was the active planetary agent of the Exodus, as we have amply demonstrated in earlier videos. It was Mars, as Michael the archangel, that created the passage through the sea and then released the waters upon the hosts of the Egyptians. During the apocalypse, as a mirror event, it will be Mars again as St. Michael, which will fight the dragon. But if Mars was and will be the Dragonslayer of the Exodus and Apocalypse, then which planet was the dragon? David Talbot explains.
The Medusa archetype was only a nuance away from the celestial serpent or dragon, with its bright filaments, effusive feathers, long flowing hair, and lightning emanations, the global symbols of the great comet. In Egypt, the eye, heart, and soul of Ra departed from the god to become the fiery Uraeus serpent, rampaging in the heavens. Astronomical traditions throughout the Mediterranean and Near East confirm that this goddess was the planet Venus. The ancient Sumerians identified Venus as Inanna, the serpent or dragon mother, unapproachable in her rage. The disordered comet-like hair of the Chinese dragon was an overriding feature, as was the discharging sphere or so-called night-glowing pearl, its spiraling attributes, and the lightning emanations of the dragon itself. Long after the remembered events, the Aztecs still knew the comet as streaming feathers. They knew the connection of the comet to a cosmic serpent. And they remembered the connection of both to the planet Venus.
Venus was the archetype of the mother goddess and of the serpent dragon, and was the great primeval comet.